spark up an online fight is to merely have an opinion. One opinion will cause many to spiral into a pit hole of anger where no one dialogues, only insults the person who has the unpopular or even the popular opinion regarding the latest trends in comic books, movies, or pulp culture. It makes sense given the circumstance. After all, acting tough behind the protective wall of the black mirror we all own and use on a daily basis makes it easy for anyone to jump right into a tirade of insults and threats. Again, just for having an opinion that they may disagree with. I decided to go against that notion. I've decided to start a video series where we discuss the hot topic issues within the comic book industry and pulp culture and provide you with another perspective. One of logic, reason, with just plain old dialogue between two people who have different opinions. My co-host and I will discuss the pulp culture topics at hand in a fun, engaging, and respectable manner. So, without further ado, let's talk about it.
The convention is the largest of its kind in the U.S., a 4-day gathering now in its 20th year. And at this event, the characters aren't just in the comic books. Some, like Devin Folk, dress the part. Have you been having a good time today?
I sure have.
The convention has been called the Cannes Festival of Comics, last year attracting 10,000 fans and industry people and who knows how many comic books. But it seemed like millions, standbys like Batman, Superman, Bugs Bunny. And how about this vintage copy of Archie from 1956? It was 10 cents then, $8 now. Along with the old, there's the new, like a comic book called Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Very big with little kids. Kevin Eastman is co-creator.
All we ever wanted to do was draw comic books. That was all we'd ever wanted to do, and we had no idea. I mean, there's, it's as baffling to us as probably a lot of people, what makes them a success.
The convention is a chance to meet established comic book artists and perhaps would-be artists. Comic book companies are always looking for talent.
I just talked to a couple today that have a lot of potential, and they're going to send me some stuff, and we'll filter it through the editors and see what happens.
While some of this seems silly, there's a serious purpose here, promoting comic books as art.
It's a true American art form, and it really is. You look at the range of stuff, from the most, like an Archie comic to graphic novels today that are, bordering on science fiction.
But perhaps more than anything else, it's a chance to be a kid again. Do you think you'll ever grow up?
Never. No, I'm a big kid now. I still buy toys. I spend most of the morning buying comics and things that, it's my inspiration. And so I am a big kid.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back again to Let's Talk About It. Tonight's episode is going to be a relatively short one. And as you saw, I showed an old news segment from 1989 that covered the San Diego Comic-Con. Now, she said 10,000 people showed up during this particular Comic-Con year. And boy, oh boy, has that changed.
I was going to say, that'd be like a small convention now, like.
Oh, dude. I mean, now it's what, the millions people walk through there in the weekend?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it.
It's wild, man. It's so wild how far the comic book convention, specifically San Diego, has come since then. And as you saw there, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, bunch of old comic books. That Batman, they showcased Batman Year One there in an issue right there displayed. And
well,
and what do you see? What did we see the most thereof, Kyle?
Comic books?
No, kids.
Okay, yes.
Kids and young people.
I don't know what you were thinking. There's like a lot of things in that.
Well,
video.
they showed it on the video. You saw in the video who they showcased there, and of course they interviewed Kevin Eastman, co-creator of the Ninja Turtles, which was cool. They even mentioned the Ninja Turtles book, so I'm pretty sure at that point it was riding high, 1989. So it could have been at that point where the cartoon came out and the toys were coming out, and it was booming, man, for Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird. But the reason why I shared this news segment is because Kyle and I
have an announcement for you guys. We are going to attend San Diego Comic-Con next week.
Yeah, we're going. It's
How excited are you, Kyle, to attend? Because it's your first time going, right?
I have been trying to go to San Diego Comic-Con for what 8 years now, I guess you would say. Yeah, because
You've
I've
been
been
trying to go for 8 years?
I've been going to the conventions. Like I've been to like WonderCon.
Well, no,
and stuff
specifically
like
San
that.
Diego Comic-Con, though.
I mean, yeah, but I was always like in my mind that I would never be able to get there because of just how difficult it is to get tickets.
Yeah.
And just like I just always sort of assumed that like I wouldn't be able to go there. And then so now this is it. This is finally the year that I am gonna go. And I am just so thrilled about it. And as Julius knows, I've been talking about it at work like for a month now.
Say hi real quick. Sorry, she wants to say hi.
Hi.
Okay. No, that dude, and what are the odds? What are the odds that you get hired at our day job?
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to disclose where we work at, but you get hired there. We get to know each other as the days go by, training you and getting you prepared for our daily work day. And then you come to find out we both are into comic books.
I know. And I had just started getting into comic books.
Yeah, I know. It's wild. And like you, I mean, I used to attend Comic-Con every year since 2000. But see, back in 2000, those were the days when you could just literally walk up to the counter on the same day and say, I would like a ticket, please. And they would give you your badge if you just paid the 20, I think it was $20 for the day.
Oh,
and it was 60. It was 60 for the 3 days if you wanted the 3-day pass. But again, you could just literally walk up. There was the line. The line wasn't even that long. You showed up. My first year, I showed up around 9 a.m. They just opened. I walked in through the front, waited in line for about 10 minutes, like a ticket, day pass, please. Okay, here you go, $20. Thank you. Boom, boom. Have a good time. And that was it. On I went to the convention center or the floor. And every year I did that since 2000 up until maybe 2007, I want to say 6 or 7, when Hollywood got their measly little dirty hands in there. And as much as I loved watching the convention grow year to year, I wasn't a big fan of Hollywood coming in and kind of taking it over and more people showing up for Hollywood as opposed to comic books. So the crypto's going to say, see, you're welcome. And for context, yes, we got tickets because the Cryptonals was published by Blacktooth Comics this past year. Not this past year, the last year, 2023. And we qualified to get tickets for badges, and I got one extra, and that's why I got Kyle to come along with me.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ray and 656 Comics for that. And so, but when I decided to stop going, it was because I didn't like where it was going in terms of like people were there mostly for celebrities and movies. And
and that was right around the time that Iron Man came out, because that was 2008.
Yeah. So it was getting there, and I chose to not go there again because the reason for me was, like I said, as much as I love to see it grow, what took away for me was the fact that now when I waited in line to get my book signed by my favorite writer or artist, I was hurried. I was pushed. Hurry, here's your book signed by, and before, Hollywood, there was no lines. You just showed up to the table, and if you happen to show up at the table and the creator was by himself, you could have a conversation with your favorite artist and writer and not feel pushed away by handlers. which happens now. And again, that's a sign of growth. So I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah.
But that's the reason why I enjoyed going to Comic-Con, was because I was able to interact with my favorite writers and artists, and not just pick their brain in terms of like how to break into the industry, but also like, hey, sometimes you want to know a little bit of the gossip that was going on behind the scenes. Hey, like, what happened with this issue, man? Like, I noticed that, the inks were great, or the colors were great, but then for some reason after issue 5, what happened? And then, oh well, I don't want to talk about it now, but maybe if you buy me lunch, I could give you the scoop, that kind of deal.
Yeah.
Um,
That just seems so foreign to me, because
Yeah,
it is like,
yeah.
it's like, because me being, going to all the conventions and stuff, it's like you tell me about your experiences all the time, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, it's like, man, that would have been so cool. But now
Yeah.
it's like literally, it's like, yeah, no, it's like $20 a signature, and you gotta hurry
Oh,
along,
dude.
and don't talk, and just here you go. It's like it's a blessing when you can actually have time to talk to somebody, and or they sign for free. Like
Yeah.
it's like a
That
gleaming light that happens.
I hate to say it, I hate to be that old man, but hey, back in my day, that was the thing. You would go up and approach him with, I mean, I was respectful, right? I was raised to respect, people's time and all that. So I never showed up with a freaking wagon full of comic books to have my favorite writer
I've
and
seen.
artist, sign. That wasn't my thing. My thing was, if there was a particular issue that moved me, or that I really like, oh, this was so good, then I would take that issue, bring him with me, find the writer, find the artist, and just say, hey man, I just want to tell you that this issue really rocked it, man. Like that you killed it for this issue. Hey man, of course they would always get, oh, thanks, man. And a lot of the time too, what I like to do as well is not bring key issues for writers to sign. I would actually bring like an issue, like a regular issue that no one cares
Non-special.
about. Yeah, no one cares about, no one's talking about, no one's hype about, and that always, you could tell it brought more authentic a joy for the writer and artist to have you bring something that not everyone brings you when they go to a con, because a lot of the times spectators are the ones who bring those issues for you to sign because they could upsell them now in eBay or in their comic shops or at flea markets, whatever, wherever they would sell them back in the day before eBay and all those websites started popping up. But now this is my first time going back to San Diego Comic-Con since then, because I vowed never to go back until I had a table ready, or if I had a book ready to showcase and to sell people, or to try to find a paid gig, either as an editor, assistant editor, a writer, work for hire, that kind of deal. So hey, what's up, Ben Soto?
Hey,
good to have you. And so that's why now when I got these, thanks to 656 Comics, I got these passes. I thought, what better time to go now? I could survey the landscape and see how much has changed since the COVID shutdown, because that's essentially what changed the industry was, and not just industry, but the conventions, attending conventions. Really, COVID really rocked, just like every industry, it really rocked the industry to its core. And last year, from what I read, it was pretty abysmal. There weren't that many vendors there, especially the, not just vendors, but also publishers. Marvel wasn't there. DC wasn't there.
Yeah.
Not any of the big publishers were there. And from what I read from people who attended last year, it was kind of barren in terms of like how it is accustomed to be. The panels were bare. Even the panels weren't even that interesting. Not a lot of people, writers and artists included, superstar writers, up and coming writers and artists, didn't even show up. And it was very, like I said, abysmal. But it seems that this year they're coming back to form.
Yeah, that's what all the headlines, all the news articles, everything's, and to be, that was one of the big things, was that Marvel was going to be in Hall H, and they're going to their big previews, and the DC is also going to have some big spotlight stuff.
Yeah.
And
There's a rumor that they're gonna screen Deadpool versus Wolverine as well.
Well, it's
right?
not rumored. It already happened. They already.
Oh, so they are gonna
announced
screen it.
Yeah, they already announced it. They already got the tickets already. You were as part of the lottery thing that you could have a chance to go and see. And
Okay.
so that's what I was trying to tell you about. But
Did you get the raffle for that or no?
no, because it was on Thursday.
Oh,
And
okay.
so
So all right. So either way, I wouldn't have been able to go anyway.
yeah.
But that,
But
I mean,
no, anyway,
but going back to what you're saying, it's all coming back to full
It's
force.
all coming back, and all the celebrities are going to be there. I mean, know what you're just saying, but like in terms of also comic book people are all going to be there, like Tom McFarlane, Rob Liefeld. Who else is going to be there? That I know of?
Jeff Johns,
Jeff Johns,
the Ghost Machine crew are going to be there.
Yeah, Jim Lee, Jeff Loeb. I think somebody else too. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's definitely a number of people that are going to be there. So I'm definitely looking forward. One of the ones that I'm going to definitely try to go and get is Jeff Johns. Not necessarily for Geiger, as we have talked about his Geiger run is iffy. It's because of Green Lantern. And, obviously I'm a huge Green Lantern fan, so I'm going to try to do that. I am also going to try to get Tom McFarlane, but that's a big if.
Hopefully you get it, man, because you have it all planned out. Ray from 656 says everyone abandoned SDCC as far as the big companies, but also the comic book dealers because it turned into a celeb show, pop culture, of course. But the comic no longer gives. That's the reason why I stopped going, Ray, is because of that very reason. It became more of a Hollywood pop culture show than a comic book convention, which is what I loved about it when I first started going. It was fantastic being able to walk by Kurt Busiek's table or Peter David's table and be able to like approach them and talk to them, even though some of them weren't friendly. And again, granted, we're all human beings, right? It's a job to a lot of these people. So sometimes you get a little grumpy. You don't want to be there because it's work. You're essentially working. Even though it's all fun for everyone else, but for those artists, it's work. And that's why I always have the respect factor in play, was like, okay, I'm not gonna burden this person with my countless questions about issue 254 and what it meant for this character, because I know that could be exhausting after a while. But I mean, like I said, I'm gonna see. You said granted, so Grant Morrison. That's right.
Granted.
Ray has a story about Grant Morrison, how I almost got into a fist fight with him. But I'll let him tell that story. He tells it better than I could. But I want to see how this year I want to look. I really am. You're going as a spectator. You going just as a fan, and that's great.
Yeah,
I'm
gonna
excited
go
for you
and try to do everything. I'm
excited for you, Kyle. Really, I really am, because I remember my first time going. I was really stoked the first time I went. It was the first time I ever went to a comic book convention, a big one. I've been to a few small ones before in LA, but those were small. Those were like in a small little room and a bunch of little tables, and that's about it. But to a big, huge convention, that was my first time ever going to one. And I went with my coworker. Strangely enough, a coworker of mine who drove me there.
Coworkers all the time.
Yeah, because he also was a comic book fan, not as much as I was, but he kind of like dabbled in it. I was like, yeah, I pick up a few issues here and there, but I don't go every week. I only go for my certain books that I like.
Yeah.
And we drove there again. We got there early, had breakfast. I got to meet the voice actor for the original Battlestar Galactica, which was great. It was like the experience on there. I was like, I can't believe this. Like I'm having breakfast with a coworker of mine who's a good friend of mine at that time, and it was just out of the blue. It wasn't like I recognized him or knew him. We went to this restaurant. It was a little busy, obviously, and the waitress came up to us and said, "Excuse me, do you guys mind if we let this gentleman here join you? He's in a wheelchair. There's not much space, and this is the area where we kind of seat the wheelchair handicap." And I was like, we're like, yeah, not a problem. Come along, right?
Yeah. And
so he joined us, sweet old man. And then he told us, oh yeah, you guys are here for the comic book convention, I take it? And we're like, yeah, we're here for the convention, that's all that stuff, right? Small talk. And he's like, I was the voice for the robot at Battlestar Galactica. And I wasn't a fan, but I knew of Battlestar Galactica. Like I knew of it.
Yeah.
I knew about the robot and the premise of it. And I was like,
He
oh
just,
wow,
like,
I was
he
like,
just,
that's
like,
so
said
cool.
that?
Yeah. I was like, that's so cool. Like, can you do the voice? And he's like, oh yeah. And he kind of like, he was older, so he had to brace himself, I guess. And he did the voice. Like he did the robot voice, like perfect. I was like, whoa. And I
Well,
told him,
it
you mean
had
to
to
tell
be
me?
perfect. It's him.
Well, because my 19-year-old self was like, well, I mean, that had to be like post, right? That had to be special effects. But
Yeah.
no, it was straight up him. As I went to a booth, said my lines, and they paid me for it, and I went home. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And of course, he went there to sign, pictures and stuff for the fans of the show. And he also did tell us that he was an extra in The Godfather.
Oh, really?
I mean, you saw The Godfather, right?
Yeah, I saw it.
So remember after
First one.
Sonny gets massacred at the toll booth,
Yes.
and there's a guy at the end who kicks him in the face or in the head.
Yeah.
That was him.
Oh, really?
That was him. Yeah. I was like, dude, that's amazing. I can't believe like we met like a guy, like a guy who's seen it all at that point. He was already up there in age. He was probably like, I think he was close to 80 when he was there that year.
Wow.
But I mean, again, what a great start to my first year
Yeah.
going to San Diego Comic-Con. And of course we went to the panels. I went to all of the how to break into the industry panels. Checked out the vendors, bought some books, got to walk around and just soak it all in, man. Like the first year was just a soak in year. Like I just soaked it all in. I didn't really,
Yeah.
since I was new, I didn't really know where to go, what to do. How do I approach my favorite writer or my favorite artist? So I really didn't. I just kind of stayed back and just kind of like, I'm just gonna soak in the moment, and just next year I'll be more prepared next year. Now that I know what it entails, right? What I need to do to get in, how the floor is laid out, how people sign books, the procedure, I guess, for lack of a better term. And so yeah, after that, that's when I was more prepared. I would collect my books that I wanted to get signed, and then get my book signed accordingly every year. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for you, man. I really can't wait for you to experience
I'm trying
it.
to get as prepared as possible. Now I have, at least I'm not as green. I have been to WonderCon and LA Comic Con. I've been to a bunch of other conventions, so it's like I know the conventions and like how they work. But like from everything I've seen, is like this San Diego Comic Con is its own beast, and it's like trying to navigate it, especially now. I've been watching a lot of like walkthroughs and like how the floor works and stuff. I'm trying to get as prepared as possible.
Right.
Like I even went to my local shop owner and borrowed some old program schedules that he had from previous years to like get the lay of the land, and trying to like and pick his brain about like, okay, well, here's what I do if I'm trying to get around all this stuff. So it's like, I'm going to try to do everything.
Yeah, and for those of you, guys, for those watching, Kyle has been in total preparation for this weekend. He's been stoked. He has a lot of he scheduled his weekend. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised if next week when we come back for another edition of Let's Talk About It, don't be surprised at the swag he has, especially after the weekend, because I'm sure he's going to come up on a lot of stuff. I will also be hunting myself. I'm going to look at the back bins mainly to continue on this path of mine, this journey of mine that I've been on for the past 6 months. And that is buying old 80s, 90s comic books that look interesting. Not so much key issues I'm looking for, but mainly like I'll probably start looking for more Peter David stuff that he's done, that he did during his peak. I'll probably be looking for a lot more Mark Grunwald stuff that he did for Marvel during the late 80s, 90s. I will probably also try to look for a lot more George Perez stuff, because I picked up an old Justice League issue that him and I think it was Jerry Conway, I believe. I can't remember who the writer was for that issue of Justice League,
but I was really blown away at peak George Perez. And I know a lot of people look back on his late 90s stuff as peak George Perez, and that's up for debate, but I also don't disagree with it either, because he did his best work during that time too. But 80s George Perez, from what I've seen so far, is like phenomenal. It's just
Right.
mind-blowing, and hey, what's going on here? Something crazy? No, nothing crazy, Justin. Just we're talking about
Comic-Con.
our Comic-Con. We're going to go to San Diego Comic-Con next weekend, and we're just talking about my experience going there as a younger fellow, and Kyle's, it's going to be his first time going to San Diego
First
Comic-Con.
time.
So he's excited about that. I'm excited for him that he's going to
Yeah.
experience this for the first time and really see just how huge and how different it is from like the other cons, especially around California. I'm sure New York Comic-Con and MegaCon and all those other cons that are out in the East Coast are just as huge and big as San Diego.
After this, I definitely want to go to New York as well. To New York.
That'll be something, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I lost my train of thought.
George Perez, his art.
Oh yeah. I'll be
90s.
looking for a lot of George Perez single issues, not so much trades, but single issue George Perez comic books when he was doing his run in Justice League. And I'm gonna look for, like I said, back bins, not key issues, because I know those are pretty pricey, and a lot of them are probably CGC graded, and I'm pretty sure the vendors there are gonna just sell nothing but TGC graded books.
Yeah, the local shop owner that is going to go there, that I know, he says most of the shops or most of the booths that are going to go there mainly sell just the big ticket item, books and stuff,
which makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'll more than likely also spend most of my time at the small press area, just to kind of pick the brains of the people who are there, find out exactly what it entails to, I guess, sustain yourself as a career indie creator, because that's also that's cost, and cost and what do you call it? Having, I guess, I can't think of the word, but just to see, I guess, just to break the brain to see what it takes in terms of budget and how much it costs, and is it worth it, that kind of deal. And then I'll probably spend some time in the Diamond area and pick their brain and find out exactly, if they have any kind of incentive or any kind of advice they can give someone like myself who wants my own books in shops, and see what kind of what I need to do to get there. If hopefully I can get there this year or next year. And and then check out some of the panels too. I'm curious to see what kind of panels they're going to have, and check that one out. And
I'm going to try emphasis on try to get into that Marvel Hall H panel.
Nah. Honestly, I'm done with
the experience of it. At least
I've done that before. I've done that before.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about me. I want to do it.
Oh, no. I mean, you could do it. You could do whatever you want.
I know, but I'm saying I want to go to the Hall H panel.
I see. I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. I apologize.
Yes.
I apologize. Yeah, I hope you do. Dude, it really is a great experience. Hall H is a whole different experience in and of itself.
Yeah.
I went to Hall H for an Alex Ross panel, and it was glorious. It was just like, dude, this is like, wow, what a setup,
And then also Colin Farrell is going to be there for the Penguin HBO show. They're going to premiere there as well. So, and then there's also going to be a Kingdom Come documentary.
Yeah.
That's also going to be not in Hall H, but that's another one that's I want to go see. And then there's the new animated Batman Capes Crusader show.
Right. Yeah.
That's going to be also premiering there. And then I think Robert Kirkman is going to be there with Skybound and Amazon Prime Video, and they're going to do like an announcement on stuff to come for that as well.
Oh, okay. That one I'll probably go to.
Yeah,
I'll probably go to the Skybound panel, because I'm a fan. So far, they haven't let me down in terms of like the stuff they've been putting out lately. So that's a good thing. For those of you who are listening, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the like button, and chat with us. Don't be shy. And for those who are watching the replay, sub to the channel. Have a good time. Join us.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going back to the San Diego Comic-Con. I'm going there mainly to survey the landscape, kind of observe the ebb and flow of the marketplace and also of the industry and where it's at the moment. Because
I have
Go
a
ahead.
question for you.
Mhm.
So, in your opinion, what makes a convention? Is
Good
it
question.
is it the people that are there? Is it the crowds? Is it the panels? Is it the books? Like, what is it that really defines the comic book convention?
Ooh.
And
I think
chat
it's a
too.
little,
What do you think as well?
yeah. If for those in the chat, go ahead and share your thoughts and give your answers to Kyle. Because again, this is Kyle's first time
Yeah.
at the San Diego Comic Con. He's gonna be to other Comic Cons, but for me, it's a little bit of everything. So it's great to make new acquaintances and friends
Hmm.
potentially. You just never know. You during the day, you picked up a couple of books and you decide to take a rest. You want to take a rest against the wall or somewhere, and you sit down, and someone happens to sit close to you and looks over and sees you're reading something that they like, and you start
Yeah.
talking, and that's great. The fraternity of comic book fans, that's the stuff that I that's one of the small reasons that amongst the other reasons as to what makes a convention great is that factor, meeting new
Hmm.
people, maybe even connecting with some. Hey, oh, so what are you, just a reader? No, I write comics. Oh, interesting. You know what? Me too. Or you know what? I draw comics. Oh, really? Well, show me your stuff.
Yeah.
Boom, you got a network there. The other thing is finding what I call treasures.
Okay.
You go to a booth, you're looking at the bin, and you find an issue that you might be missing from your collection that you couldn't get because you missed out when it came out on Wednesday.
Or it's just
you
hard
know?
to find.
Or it's hard to find. And it's also another good thing is the fact that, like, hey, I found this in the bin, and it's hard to find, and you go, is this the right price? And they go, yeah. And it's like,
shut up and take my money.
I'll take it. Which has happened to me numerous times at the years I used to go to Comic-Con. And so there's that factor, finding little treasures, and also not only comic books, but also things that you may have forgotten about that are from your childhood, or maybe things that are imported that a vendor has, and like from Japan, for instance, or from Europe. There's a lot of vendors there that get European comics, and sometimes you can find some really great European comic books that are hard to find here because they don't sell them here. But the vendor happened to bring them over because, well, why not? Right? Why not get the extra cash and get those European comic book lovers to buy, their books? And a lot of the times too, they're not translated. They're actually French or Spanish or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just buy those just to have them, even though I have no idea what I'm reading. But the artwork,
just Google Translate it.
Yeah, exactly, right. But the artwork itself is so worth it, and you just can't help it but just buy it. And I've done that over the years too, where I just I don't care if this is in French. I'm gonna buy it because the artwork is fantastic here, and it's worth it. It's worth the money, So there's that, and also there's the panels. I've been to some panels, for instance, where it's the typical how to break into the business, right? And I've been to the panels where the pros, quote unquote, and I mean that loosely, share, they share how you break in, right? And they give you the most basic, generalized information. They give you nothing. So you wasted an hour of your time listening to a bunch of nothing.
Yeah.
Well, you just got to work hard. Work really hard. Work your ass off.
Believe in yourself.
And believe in yourself, and you'll make it. It's like, okay, how does that help me though? Where do I go? Do I talk to an editor? Do I talk to an assistant editor? Do I go through Diamond? What can I do?
Pull yourself by the bootstraps and do it.
Yeah, and just do it. But they never want to tell you the truth of the matter. And the only panel that I thought was the best how to break into the industry was a married couple. Unknown indie creator, which is why I really am so connected to the indie sphere, because these two comic book creators, I think the husband was the writer and the wife was the artist, and they did their own comic book. They were strictly independently published themselves. They gave the best advice. They provided the people there. I was attending as well. The best. It was like I felt like I was in a classroom. and I was
Mm.
being told all the trade secrets to my craft. So not
Okay.
only did they explain, okay, you need a computer, you need Photoshop, you need, I recommend you get a Font Lab software program. They're a bit pricey, but they're worth it because you get to own your own lettering.
Oh,
And they explain
I-
why, because of copyright reasons and all that stuff. And you see, these are the
I didn't
things
even realize that.
these are the things that the pros never shared with people when you went to their panels on how to break in to the industry. And they explained you have to finish a comic book. Finish a comic book. Finish it. Don't do 5 pages. Don't do 10. Finish a comic book. Try to find an artist who's pretty good because they're relatively cheap. They're starting out, but don't get a comic book artist who's terrible and starting out because they're really cheap, but it's going to hurt you when you want to show your book to a potential client or a potential employer.
Invest a little bit into that, basically.
Invest a little bit into that. And that's another thing they said too. Save your money. Don't spend your money on, save it. Every penny, every nickel, every dime and quarter, save it. Collect it. Use it as a budget. And then based on your budget, you hire accordingly. Then you finish your book, find a printer, your local printer. They said, I recommend a local printer because you could walk to their printer. You could, call and find out what's going on with your book, and then do a small print run, and then go to your local comic shops and sell yourself. Go to your local convention and sell yourself. Get a table, so showcase your book, and eventually someone will come knocking on your door if you do a good enough job. Now that was the great advice from these 2 indie creators, and that was like my 7th how to break into the industry or comic book industry panel that I attended in the 6 years that I was attending San Diego Comic Con and also WonderCon when it came to LA or Anaheim, I mean. And I'll never forget them. I'm always grateful for them because they provided.
Write that down. Write that down.
Dude, I was like, finally, and that's when I realized, the term gatekeeping. These quote unquote pros are gatekeeping, but they're wasting your time essentially.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of pissed me off about it. But that's one factor. A good strong panel. Going to the Alex Ross panel, great experience. Because
was he at the panel?
Yeah, he was the center. He was the center focus of the panel.
Oh,
no one else was sitting at the table but him. and the video behind them was of him drawing a Superman commission.
Oh, really?
So
Okay,
so
cool.
as he was talking about his career, about how he started and how he went to the New York, Art Institute, or I forgot what the school was, and his experience there, and of course him getting work from small publishers when he's starting out, and how he's kind of built. It was a great panel, and then the Q&A was great. Everyone who asked him questions, he answered them thoroughly. No yes or no, like he was a total pro, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Those panels. I hate those panels where it's like it happens all the time. It's either a moderator that asks just stupid questions, or it's like you've got the fans, and it's like nothing against the fans, but it's like just recently when I was at the at Dallas and there was Frank Miller was there, and one of the fans just says, it's like, which would you either like to draw more, the blade adamantium claws or bone claws? And I'm like, that's what you ask Frank Miller? I mean, like, out of everything that you can ask him, it's like, would you like to draw better? And he's all like, adamantium ones because they're blades. Next,
right?
It's like, wow, great deep thought conversations that we're having here. And it's just, yeah, and
I mean, those are fun too because it's kind of cringe. And that those make memories as well. It's like, hi, I remember that guy. I can't believe he asked that question to Frank Miller. Like for you, that's a memory forever,
I guess so. I mean, I guess from that perspective, yes, I remember that one.
So Ben here says a comic book convention should focus on comics and their creators. Agreed. It should be a place where fans can have a chance to meet their favorite writer, artist, publisher, and fellow fans. So see, right there, that's random money, and that's another factor that plays into what makes a great comic book convention, is that factor as well. You get to meet your favorite writer, you get to meet your favorite artist. Hell, sometimes if you're not socially awkward, or if you don't really, showcase your idol worship, as I like to call it, you could run across your favorite writer and artist hanging out,
Yeah.
at a vendor spot, or eating lunch at the lounge, just kind of just sitting there. And if you're not pushy, and you're just like, hey man, I just want to just tell you do great work. And a lot of times, if the guy sees, like, if the artist, I mean, senses that you're not gonna push yourself onto him, hey, join me, sit down, let's hang out, and then
Wow.
you get to hang out with your favorite writer and artist. That is in case you're not pushy and like, can you sign my books, while you're here. But yeah, that's another factor there too. It's part of a great convention experience. And also, yeah, get to ask your favorite writers and artists questions during the panel. Like I remember I went to a Brian Michael Bendis panel, and I ended up asking him a question about
really?
about, because I was reading Powers at the time, and I was a huge fan of that book. I was one of the, if you haven't read Powers yet, people, go to your shop, buy the first few trades. Some of the best crime superhero comics of all time, and it's a shame that no one in Hollywood has figured out how to sell this as a TV show, because it would be a fantastic procedural superhero show if they get there. Ben says, if comics are not the focus, it's a pop convention. Nothing wrong with that, but too many times a pop convention is called a Comic-Con, and it's all actors and cosplay with no emphasis on the comics. Agreed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was in this at the panel with Brian Michael Bendis. Great dude, very down to earth, very blue collar. He reminded me of a blue collar worker. Like I felt like he could have been a construction worker if he wanted to. Great guy, very approachable, very excited that he was there. You could tell. You could just tell from his body language. And so I read the latest issue of Powers at that time, and it was a silent issue. It didn't have any dialogue. But it was pretty much, it was the origin of the main character story.
Oh, okay.
The cop, and how he came about. So it was great, but he did it well. And the first, I think it was the first 7 or 8 pages, it was a nod to a 2001 Space Odyssey, film by Stanley Kubrick. But I wasn't sure, so I wanted to know. So they were, okay, I got time for one more question. I raised my hand, and he called on me, and I said, yeah, I just want to know if was the first half of issue, I forgot the issue number, was that like a nod or homage to a 2001 Space Odyssey? And his eyes lit up. He's like, yeah, yes, absolutely. Oh, I'm so happy you caught that. I didn't know anyone was gonna catch that. And he went on this like Stanley Kubrick love letter tirade about how much he loved his movies and how he missed them, because I think he had just passed away, 2 years prior. So he was like, I already miss him. He's my favorite film director. He's like the guy I always study whenever I want to write a new story. And he just kind of like opened up, lit up when I asked him that. And he's like, good catch, man. Good catch. And it's like, yeah, all right, cool. Sweet,
yeah. Look at that.
And then of course, another story, Brian Azzarello, who was writing 100 Bullets at the time. I went to a Vertigo panel. This is when Vertigo was big. It was DC Comics imprint, and they were riding high, man. Like they had Sandman, they had 100 Bullets, they had all these books that were just Hellblazer, the Constantine book, before they moved them to DC Comics.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and
Is
so
Vertigo still around?
No, they crashed and burned. Once Karen Berger left, because she was the editor of that imprint, she was the one in charge of who she hired, who she greenlit the books from. Once she left, and I don't know who took over for her, but that editor who took over for her I'll just say this, was incompetent. Let's just say that. And so, well, anyways, Brian Azzarello was there. Grant Morrison was there at that panel.
Oh, wow.
I forget who else was there. Will Dennis was there. He was the editor for 100 Bullets. Cool. He was also a cool dude. And Brian Azzarello showed up there a little late, and you could tell he did not want to be there. He was not having it at all. He was just kind of like
sitting there,
Yeah, he was obviously obligated because I'm pretty sure DC probably told him you need to go to the panel, like you have to.
Yeah.
And so he's there, he's sitting there. You could just see him, like you just see his bio was just like, God, like, oh, why do I have to be? This is so
Looking at his
stupid."
watch, like when's
Yeah,
this
he was just kind of like,
over?
fidgeting on the table, kind of looking down. He's kind of like uninterested. Just and Grant Morrison was the one doing all the talking, but you don't understand half of what he was saying because of a Scottish thick accent. So whenever anyone asked him a question about the Invincibles, they, oh yeah, I was running you down right then, right, guys. And he's like, wait, what? What's he
And
saying?
everybody's just kind of like, yeah,
Yeah, everyone's just like, wow, okay.
wow.
And then it got to the point where they announced right then that Constantine was going to be made into a movie and Keanu Reeves was going to star in it. Now everyone loves Keanu Reeves now, right? Everyone loves Keanu Reeves now.
Yeah.
But back then, no one liked Keanu Reeves. He was back then a joke in the acting world. Because he just played the same role and he had no range. So at that time, no one in that room anyway didn't like Keanu Reeves. They hated Keanu Reeves. So when they announced that Keanu Reeves was going to be John Constantine and not some British guy,
Right.
there was a collective groan in the room. Ugh.
Why?
And Brian Azzarello lost it. He lost it. So you know
he
how I
just,
mentioned
went off.
you know how I mentioned he was uninterested, didn't really care. He's kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever. He answered with one word, 2-word answers. Yes, yeah,
Home
no.
clause. Next.
Yeah. And he like, oh, I can't believe you people. Like, you guys just complain about everything. You know what? If you don't like what they're gonna do, Hollywood's gonna do with the movie, buy the book. Buy the book. It's right here. The book is right here. Buy the damn book.
It's like everybody went silent when he was doing that.
And me and my friend, my coworker who took me, we were busting up. We were laughing. We were like, bah! the only guys there laughing. And he must have thought we were laughing at him.
Oh.
Because he gave me he was staring me daggers, man. Because I was in the front row. I sat in front during that panel. So me and him were like, like laughing. And when I look over at him, he's like this. He's like, and I was like, I was like,
no,
I wanted to tell him, like, oh no, yeah. I was like, we're laughing with you, man. Like, that was funny because you had a point. You know, you have a point. Buy the book. Shut up and buy the book. And he was right. But that was my experience with Brian Azzarello. And then, of course, later that day, I went to a stable, got my 100 bullets signed by him and Rizzo.
Did he remember you from the panel?
No, he was just, again, he wasn't mean, but he wasn't pleasant either. He was kind of like, I'm here. Oh, yeah. Cool. Here you go. Thank you. That's about it.
Was he still signing for free though?
Yes. Back then, writers didn't charge for signatures. You just showed up with your book, and they will sign it for you. Now I'm sure he probably charges. The artist didn't charge either. The artist only charged for commissions.
Okay, well that's understandable.
Yeah. So if you wanted a commission, you would have to pay them for a commission.
Well, yeah.
But signatures from a writer, no. You would just give them their book, and if the writer was in a good mood, then they'd be like, "Oh wow, yeah, I remember this issue. This is pretty cool. I'm glad you enjoyed this one." And it was signed, and some of them will ask, "Oh, who did I make it out to?" Or some don't. Some just kind of sign it and say, "All right, thanks, man. Appreciate your support," and then just wave you goodbye and you move on.
Well, that's that's like what happened with at a Fan Expo Dallas, where the writer Jim Zub, who's doing the Conan,
right?
Story right now, and yeah, it was like just talking with him, and he was like explaining the story and stuff like that, and then he's like, "Yeah, I'll sign your books for free right here," and he did like a little blurb on one of them too. It says like, "Welcome to the Hyperion Age" or something.
Nice.
But then Jim Zub, and it's like that was so cool. I remember that so well.
And that's part of a good comic book convention experience. That is having a meeting a writer who's really cool, down to earth, and appreciates what the industry has brought them, which is a readership.
Yeah.
Because now he's going to have a fan for life.
Oh
with
yeah.
you.
I'm always
You know?
gonna buy it. If his name's on a book, I'm gonna definitely start getting
There you
more
go.
on that.
There you go. And that's what makes the comic book industry unique from every other industry, be it Hollywood or like novelist writers, is that it is. I mean, with novelists, you still have a fan for life, but with comic books, it's just so different because a novelist takes a novelist, if they're slow, like what's his face, the guy who writes the Game of Thrones books,
George R.R. Martin.
yeah, George Martin. You're never going to get another novel because novels are hard to write, and especially if you're not an active writer like Stephen King, for instance. But a comic book, you really don't need much. You just need to have a good eye to write a script to help the artist really showcase their craft,
Yeah.
and really exploit their strengths as a sequential storyteller. And yeah, and again, it's interaction too, fan interaction. If you have a positive fan interaction with a writer, you have a fan for life. And that's the key factor there, which is why professionalism should be an important factor when you do become a comic book writer, because that's what you want. You want a readership forever until the day you decide to not want to do it anymore.
Yeah. Because then they're going to start spending money on your books.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, well, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I already finished my thought.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I think that's what it mainly boils down to, is like, it's an experience. It's like like the comic book conventions should be about your experience at the convention. And whether or not that, if your experience and is for, getting signatures or getting the key issue that you wanted or meeting the celebrity or going to the panel, it should be all about the consumer, the fans' experience. And that should be the main focus of a convention, is how do we make the fan as happy as they could be, or the best experience that they possibly can. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of conventions should be, and that should, filter through all those avenues, making sure that the signings are with the best intentions for the consumer, with the panels, with the best intentions for the fans, with the, the show floor, making sure that the panel with the exhibitors and everybody are trying to make the best experience for everybody. And I think that's what really makes or breaks a convention, because, if you go to a convention and you're like, oh man, there was so many things that are there, but like the lines were all over the place. I couldn't get anybody, the panels didn't start on time, or, everything was way overcharged and stuff like that. I'm never going to that convention again.
Right.
Versus, different conventions, like, man, everything was so smooth, went right into the line, got my signature. The guy was so nice, went to the panel, and that was such a fun time. I got called on for an answer, question. And, it's like, so absolutely. It's all about building that experience for somebody. And that should go for, everybody, the people who are, the most comic book, aficionados versus the brand new green, never seen a comic book before in their life person.
Absolutely.
So,
hold on, sorry, I just
sequential art, which is
okay. So yeah, that's another story I'll share with one of my comic book convention experiences was meeting Tim Sale.
Oh yeah.
I mean, God rest his soul. He's left us a few years back, but Tim Sale was a true gentleman, a true professional. I was walking around the floor, right, and I see him, and I'm like, dude, no one's at his table. Like this is my opportunity, because I had a few issues of El Diablo, which was a comic book that was produced by Vertigo Comics, written by Brian Azzarello. And Tim Sale was the cover artist for those 4 issues. So I was like, great, I got Tim Sale here. He'll sign my cover for this book. So I approached this table. I am Mr. Sale. My name's Julius, and would you please sign this issue? And this is part of the, when to add to your answer, the question you had about the experience, comic book convention experience, was that sometimes you as the reader, as a fan, surprise the creator, the writer or the artist, and you leave the impression as opposed to the other way around. I mean, he
Right.
still left the impression because of how professional and how like welcoming he was when they approached his table. And I handed him El Diablo, and the first thing he says like, "Whoa, wow, oh, I remember this project. Oh, dude, you're the first to ever bring me this. No one's ever brought me this but you." And
Wow.
of course, I was like, "Oh, cool," like
Cool.
I'm a true fan, that kind of deal. And he looked at it. He was looking at the issue, and he was like staring at the cover. He's like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Wow, yeah, I remember this. Like, I remember I bought a whole." Because I asked him like, would you tell me your process of this cover? Like, how'd you get the cover like this? Oh, I know a guy who has a whole bunch of old newspapers, from like the 1900s and stuff, and I just like borrowed it from him, I bought stacks from him, and I took it home and I kind of laid it out as a collage piece, and I drew, I drew over it, and I did this, and he started explaining to me, like, I forget most of it now, but it was all Chinese to me when he was explaining it. But he was like, yeah, and then I copied it and stuff, and I sent it into the offices, and that's how I made the covers. Like, wow, that's amazing. He's like, do you have the issue with the guy like this? And I was like, no, I only brought the first issue. I have it at home. It's at home. I just brought the first issue because I told him I don't like to bring stacks of books. I just
right.
So I went, oh, okay, that's cool. And he's like, wow, man, I can't believe it. Like, everyone always brings me my other books, but you're the first one to ever bring me this. Kudos to you. And he signed it, and and shook my hand and said, hey, yeah, enjoy the convention. I was like, oh, thanks, man. And that was it.
See, that's a good experience.
Yeah, great experience, fantastic experience. And so I was sad that he passed away, because I was hoping to meet him again, and this time bring him the El Diablo.
Bring the other one,
yeah, bring it to him, and maybe I could trigger the memory of like, oh yeah, I remember you
from years ago. You were
years ago, but it didn't happen, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm sure a lot of you guys who are in the chat right now, if you guys are in California, or maybe you're going to travel here, I hope you guys do go to San Diego Comic-Con. If you are, hey, hit us up, dude. Hit us up.
We're going to
be
there.
Don't be shy. Yeah,
I'm going to be running around.
So if you're watching the show, or you watch the replay, and you're going to go to San Diego Comic-Con, please, by all means, hit me up on X, or comment on the in the comment section, and let me know, and let's meet up. Let's meet up and get to meet each other, and put faces to the texts and chats that we read when we have the show. So don't be shy, and to let us know, because we would love to meet you and hang out with you guys and talk comics, talk shop.
Yeah,
because like I said,
you got to keep up with me though. If we're gonna be chatting stuff like that, I'm gonna be going to some other place. So you got to be running with me.
yeah. Kyle's gonna be running around. So if you want to join him, that's fine. But I'm not gonna be running around with Kyle most of the time. I'm gonna be doing my own thing. Like I said, I'm gonna really survey the landscape and really pay close attention as to what it looks like and what's selling, what's not selling. I'm gonna talk to a lot of vendors there, comic shop owners, because I think that's important for the future of comics. I really do want. I don't want to save, the brick and mortar, storefronts, the local comic shops. That's ridiculous. I just want to play my part in keeping the culture alive, and that is, putting books that I'm producing in the shops, so that way readers can find something fresh and new if they're looking for that kind of thing with Ghetto Dragon, Vigilant Fury, or Reset Protocol, or any other projects that may come about later on as the years go by. Because I do plan on doing this until I can't anymore, or until something breaks, But I'm excited, because it's been a long time since I've been to San Diego Comic-Con, and hopefully I get to meet some great people. I'm sure I will. There will be a lot of people I will avoid meeting or want to meet. I won't name any names, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about it, and hopefully, if you guys are there again, hopefully we see you and we get to meet and get to hang out. That'd be great. That'd be fantastic.
It's gonna be fun. That's what this whole thing's about. It's just
It's about fun,
meeting
right?
people, having
Yeah.
fun, building an experience.
Exactly right. So yeah, that's it, guys. That's the show. We just wanted to do this show. It's a short show. We just wanted to share with you guys that we'll be attending San Diego Comic-Con, and if you catch the replay again, let me know and we'll meet up, dude. I'm always my door is always open to meet people that I interact with on my X account. And I interact with a few people on X, and you know who you are. And I'm always open to meeting people in person, talk shop, and even network. So I'm hoping to network. That's gonna be my goal going to San Diego, is to network, is to try to find a gig, a paid gig, and see if it works out. I was hoping Vigilant Fury and Research Protocol would be done by then, so I could have 2 books with me to shop around and say, hey, I got these books. Are you guys interested in publishing them and putting your logo on the corner there? But
Yeah.
it didn't quite work out that way. So, hey, it is what it is.
I also, before we leave, I want to give a shout out to Benjamin Soto. He is sent me an email. I think it was like last week or something, saying that his book is now funding. And so he wants to go, so just wanted to shout out and say, definitely check out his book. We reviewed one of the stories it's like a bunch of stories that's going to be in this.
That's right. Trick or Treats, right?
He's funding. Yeah. And so we reviewed one of it. We said it was really good. And so we definitely recommend go check out his crowdfunding for that book.
Yeah. Trick or Treats Volume
1, I think. Yeah.
Ben, you got the wrench. Put up the link in the chat. You got the wrench. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, we Kyle did review it. It's worth the pickup. So if you're looking for something different, a little edgy, and it's a Halloween themed, check out the book. It's really well done by our pal Benjamin Soto.
And the one that we reviewed was the story that was like what's Cephas, I think is how to pronounce his name.
Cephas. Yes, the vampire.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The burnt
fire thing.
The burnt victim vampire.
Yeah. It was cool.
There he is. There it is. There you go.
There's the link.
There it is. Funmycomic.com. Trick or Treats Volume 2. Excuse me. Volume 2. Check it out. Click on the link. Check it out, guys. And back indie creators. That's the wave of the future. But Kyle, I think that's pretty much it, man. That's all we wanted to talk about. Let you guys know we're going to San Diego Comic-Con, how stoked we are, and my experiences, and Kyle's new experience that he will have. Once again, shout out and thank you to 656 Comics. Without them, we wouldn't have gotten the badges. So thank you to you guys. I deeply appreciate the opportunity to be editor for your project, the Cryptonals, which, by the way, will be coming out soon. They currently do have a campaign on Indiegogo, Border Mayhem. It's live now. Check it out. It's on Indiegogo, 656 Comics. Don't miss out on it. It's going to be a great one-shot comic book, and I highly recommend you check it out and back it. Any last things you want to mention, Kyle, before we call it?
Build those experiences.
Oh, great. That's a great advice. Yes, build those experiences. They're priceless.
Yeah.
When I started out, I was nervous as all hell when I went to these comic book conventions. I didn't know how to sell myself. I didn't know how to approach people to sell myself and my books, or my ideas for that matter. I was a very introverted individual back then. Now, not so much. Now I'm a little bit more outgoing, and I am more comfortable in my skin. And hopefully this year, I leave Comic-Con with something, meaning even if it's a lettering gig from an obscure publisher. If it's a gig, it's a gig, And so that's my hope. That's my goal, is that I'm going to go there fully ready to sell myself, sell my work, and really showcase that I belong. I belong with everyone else who's there selling their stuff.
And I think that's the main thing too. It's like, take some risks, and always, and remember too, these are just normal people too. You know, it's like
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
they're just normal human beings as well. So it's like we tend to like almost like you say idolize them because of what their writing or their arts
Well, mainly what they've
art
accomplished.
well yeah what they've accomplished and everything. It's like yeah, they have done a bunch of crazy things, but yet they're here, they want they're talking with you and you can
Yes.
talk with them back without having to be all yeah, sorry I'm taking up your light.
I mean,
You know
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's it. And again, what was that you say? Because you came up with it, so you say it again.
build those experiences.
Build those experiences. Well said, Kyle. So with that note, before we leave, I know typically we do Is It Worth the Pickup, but we decided to skip that over because we just wanted to announce that we're going to San Diego Comic-Con. And then plus I have a lot of work to do still. I still have to prepare Reset Protocol. I still have to prepare Vigilant Fury. So I'm going to dedicate
I still have to
the rest
prepare
of the
for
night.
San Diego.
There you go.
Stuff I got.
Yeah, same here. And same here. I have to also
Yeah.
prepare for that because you and I are going together. So we wanted to do a short show today. So we're going to skip Is It Worth the Pickup. However, I'm still going to keep intact the ending of the show, which is whenever I find I see even Ben believes
Yeah.
so
I got to trademark that.
yeah, I think you should build those experiences.
Build
You know what?
those
That'll be your
experiences.
calling card, Kyle, going forward. Every
Okay.
time we leave, you say that. Build those
experiences.
I every time before I end the show, I always try to find something during the week that's interesting, thought-provoking, funny, whatever. And I want to share with you guys because hey, that's what I like to do. I like to share interesting things with you guys because maybe you're not aware of it, and hey, it could add a wrinkle to your brain.
Yeah.
So I found this old clip from 1992. It's from Stan Lee's Comic Book Greats. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this series. It's a very famous series, especially if you are a aspiring comic book creator or if you're a working comic book creator. You know about the series. It's very famous. This is a prime example of giving back to the industry that helped make you. And this is a clip from Will Eisner talking with Stan Lee. Both of them, rest in peace. Greats in their own. They are the giants of the shoulders that we stand on. So this is a 4-minute clip. It's a little long, but it's worth it, especially if you're an aspiring comic book artist or writer. I highly recommend you try to find the entire series because it's worth the watch. It's worth your time. You will level up once you watch these series. So I highly recommend it. I'm going to end it here with this.
On a side note, he played the video right before we started, and it's like one of those things where it's like I knew what they were talking about, in terms of like the content that they were doing. Like I knew it in a sense, but when he explained it, it just like clicked, and I'm like, oh, that's the perfect way to explain something as simple possible, as simply as possible.
Yes,
and it clicked in my mind even more.
Exactly. So, and that's what this channel is all about. I want it to be a channel where we also learn. We learn about the history of our industry because we're if we want to be a part of the industry, we have to know the history of it. Because how else would you grow or how else would you shine otherwise?
Right.
If you're unaware or ignorant of the people who came before you, who made it possible for people like me to continue on trying to make comic books. So if it wasn't for Joe Shuster and Joe Siegel, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Will Eisner, and the list goes on, we wouldn't be having the comic book channel. We wouldn't be going to San Diego Comic-Con. There would be no San Diego Comic-Con. It'd be nothing. It'd be a relic of a time past that's kind of forgotten, So
like newspaper or something
like that. But to an extent. But here's Will Eisner explaining sequential art. Good night, guys. Have a great weekend. we won't see you next week because we'll be at Comic-Con. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll do a special live stream from my phone, like a
We'll
quick little
try.
10
We're gonna
minute.
try,
Yeah,
but we're
we'll
gonna
try.
also gonna be all over the place. And whether or
But
not internet's spotty, that's different.
Yeah, exactly. But if not, we'll see you the week after, and we'll share our stories and experiences because hey, we're building experiences here, right?
Experiences.
Yeah. All right, guys. You guys take care. Have a great weekend. Stay safe out there. We'll see you on the next one. See ya.
Bye.
Which is what I call the art of comics, is the arrangement of pictures in a sequence to tell a story. What we do, what is being done in this comic medium, is to take a seamless flow of action. Say, for example, a man walking across the street and falling into a manhole, for example. So we start off,
An unusual situation.
well, to say the least, we start off with the understanding that there are maybe 500 actions between that man walking across the street and going down there. What we
We're
have
going
to
to say
do,
500 manholes in
Five-
New York. All right, go ahead. What do you have to do?
I'll stay.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to take you seriously.
Don't ever
He's
do that.
walking. What we
Right.
do is select out of the 500 little all totally connected, unseparated actions. We select those actions which we can use to show the action itself. Now, what sequential art depends on is an intellectual understanding between you and the reader. So we have the man walking down the street here with a bow tie, and between him and here, there's another action in which he's perhaps looking back at somebody back there.
Who said, how
Who
come
said,
you're
yeah.
wearing that bow tie?
Yeah, well, hey, Charlie, what are you wearing that bow tie for?
See, I know you never do anything without a reason. When you said there's a man with a bow tie, you had to have established that for some reason, I figure.
That's what makes you the great editor you are.
Go ahead.
You understand. So he's walking down here, and he
Looking
looks back.
Mhm.
Now, and then in the third action here, he falls into the sewer, and I leave his hat hanging, flying up in the air.
Oh,
Now-
I see what you mean. He turned around, so he didn't see the
He didn't
open
see it.
manhole.
That's right.
He's fallen, and there's the
That's
hat. Right. Okay, great.
Clever of you to figure this out, Stan. It's
Well, you
marvelous.
said it was an intellectual arrangement somehow between.
So
you.
now, what I've done here really is selected out of a whole series of actions, which would normally occur in a motion picture film. A moving picture frame would be something like several hundred frames for this action, and selected from this into that. And this is what is known as sequential art, because there's a sequence of events between this picture and that.
Well, you referred to comic book artwork as sequential art, don't you?
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. There's a textbook I wrote on it, which I use to this day to teach from, builds on that point. I felt that for the first time, somebody had to sit down and create a discipline out of this art. When I started, as I said earlier, there were no schools. Nobody taught this subject. And I think it was necessary to do this. And I think it had to go beyond. I wanted to go beyond how to draw feet, how to draw ears and noses.
Obviously, you've never studied how to draw feet.
No, I've left it out. I think they go like this.
I thought you were starting out with Charlie Chaplin.
Well,
No, but
this is
actually,
a-
it's very
I did
clear.
this so that it's
Yeah.
so
You've got
it's
the
simply-
action beautifully. Anybody can tell.
At any rate,
Yeah.
that represents the kind of action. Now, part of the importance of the work I do, to me, that is the importance of the scene itself, is the human action. I spend a lot of time developing emotion. I believe that emotion comes not necessarily from a face, from the picturing the face, but rather than the body. We show our emotions with our body,
Body
by and
language.
large, body language, if you will. So that to me, it's very important to be able to develop that. And I spend a lot of time, I do a lot of erasing. I'll start figuring and play with it until I get it to precisely exactly that, because I'm in constant contact with the reader. Remember that I am writing a story to a reader. I'm telling a reader a story, and I have to connect with the reader's life experience and his understanding of what it is that will convey or transmit an emotion.